Amira's heart raced as she watched her stepmother, Clarice, smirk while opening the envelope that could ruin her life. Everything her mother had left behind was at stake: the house, the savings, and even her reputation. Clarice thought she had outsmarted Amira, planting false documents to make it look like Amira had squandered the inheritance. Amira's hands shook, not with fear, but with the fire of knowing she had already anticipated this. She let Clarice read every word, watched the panic bloom in her stepmother's eyes. "Subscribe now to follow my journey," Amira whispered, as Clarice realized the trap was her own. Amira couldn't believe how easy it had been to make Clarice slip. She had secretly copied every fraudulent document and sent them to the lawyer before Clarice even opened the envelope. But Clarice, ever cunning, wasn't finished. She began calling family members, spreading rumors about Amira's alleged irresponsibility. Amira's phone buzzed with messages from shocked relatives, but she stayed calm, smiling inwardly at the chaos she had predicted. Clarice, furious at being outplayed, decided to escalate. She invited Amira to what she claimed was a family reconciliation lunch, but Amira sensed the danger. At the restaurant, Clarice tried to humiliate her in front of cousins and neighbors, hinting that Amira had manipulated her inheritance. Amira, pretending to be flustered, played along, secretly recording every word and gesture. As she left the restaurant, she knew the proof she had gathered would blow the story wide open. The next day, Amira discovered that Clarice had secretly changed the locks on the study where her mother's will was kept. Amira, undeterred, found a hidden key she had taken long ago, unlocking the safe to reveal a letter from her mother, an undisputed declaration of Amira's rightful ownership of everything. Clarice's plan was crumbling, but she wouldn't give up easily. Clarice hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on Amira, hoping to tarnish her reputation. Amira, however, anticipated this move and subtly fed the investigator misleading information, making him believe that Clarice herself had committed minor financial misconduct. When the investigator reported back to Clarice, she was livid. Her own plan was backfiring spectacularly. At a high-profile family gala, Clarice tried one final public humiliation, orchestrating a scene where she accused Amira of stealing a family heirloom. Amira, confident and poised, turned the situation around by revealing hidden security footage proving Clarice's attempt to plant the heirloom elsewhere. The crowd gasped, and Clarice's face turned pale. Amira decided to test Clarice further by pretending to be defeated. She allowed her stepmother to believe that she had successfully manipulated her. Meanwhile, Amira discreetly gathered evidence of Clarice's past schemes, ensuring that when the time came, the exposure would be irreversible. Clarice, emboldened by her apparent success, attempted to alienate Amira from her closest friends. She spread lies about Amira's personal life, trying to isolate her emotionally. But Amira had anticipated this, reaching out privately to each friend with undeniable proof of Clarice's deceit, strengthening her own alliances and support system. One night, Amira intercepted a secret conversation between Clarice and a corrupt banker. Clarice planned to seize more of the inheritance using a forged signature. Amira, watching from the shadows, recorded everything. The trap was now fully in her hands, and Clarice was oblivious to how close she was to disaster. Amira arranged a coincidental meeting with Clarice at the lawyer's office. While Clarice smugly presented her forged documents, Amira unveiled the recordings and proof of every manipulation. Clarice's smug grin faltered as the lawyer declared the documents invalid. Clarice, desperate and humiliated, tried to convince Amira to negotiate. Amira refused, watching with satisfaction as Clarice's own manipulations unraveled publicly. With Clarice's credibility in ruins, Amira discovered an old letter from her mother revealing a secret account set aside to support Amira's personal dreams. Clarice had been blind to it, consumed by her own greed. Amira quietly reclaimed it, ensuring that her future was secure beyond just the family home. Clarice attempted to sway Amira's younger siblings against her, whispering lies and sowing doubt. Amira, anticipating emotional sabotage, shared her mother's letters and stories with them, building their trust and loyalty while Clarice grew increasingly isolated. A shocking twist came when Amira learned that Clarice had been collaborating with a distant cousin to challenge her inheritance legally. Amira, ready for every eventuality, invited a respected legal expert to intervene, turning the cousin's plan against them entirely. Clarice, now panicked, attempted one last act of sabotage by trying to sell the family home without Amira's consent. Amira preemptively secured the necessary paperwork, locking Clarice out of any legal claim. At a family dinner, Clarice tried to provoke Amira publicly once more. Amira, unshaken, revealed all the hidden evidence of Clarice's schemes to the entire family. The room erupted in disbelief, and Clarice realized her humiliation was complete. In a desperate bid for control, Clarice attempted to manipulate one of Amira's trusted allies by bribery. Amira, knowing this would happen, had already prepared a trap of her own, exposing the attempt in a way that further cemented Clarice's downfall. Clarice, cornered, tried to reconcile with Amira under the guise of remorse. Amira, however, used this meeting to extract a confession of all her past plots, recording every word. The confession would ensure that Clarice could never manipulate Amira or the family again. Amira decided it was time for the final blow. She called a family meeting and publicly revealed Clarice's every attempt at deception, leaving no room for doubt or denial. Clarice, finally exposed, had no choice but to retreat, humiliated and powerless. With the family safe and her inheritance secure, Amira began rebuilding her life. She started a foundation in her mother's name, ensuring that everything Clarice had tried to take would instead benefit those who needed it most. In the final twist, Amira discovered a hidden clause in her mother's will that allowed her to permanently bar Clarice from any claim to the estate, ensuring that the stepmother's manipulation would never threaten her again. Amira smiled, knowing justice was done, not through cruelty, but through careful, unwavering strategy.